fatty acid metabolism. So in this, fatty acids are carried by albumin into the cells for their further metabolism. Fatty acids are carried by albumin in the blood, and it is carried to the cells for their further metabolism. Now, fatty acids are long chain hydrocarbons. Fatty acids are long chain hydrocarbons with terminal COOH group. If you see the structure of fatty acids, these are long chain hydrocarbons with a terminal COOH group. They are amphipathic and stored in the body as triacylglycerol, TAG. Triacylglycerol I have represented in short form TAG. So these fatty acids are amphipathic in nature and they are stored in the body as triacylglycerol. Now these fatty acids or lipids, they serve as an alternate fuel for the source of energy in the body. So these are alternate fuels as a source of energy for the body. Normally, total body needs energy means ATP is met by various fuels. For example, if you see carbohydrates, major energy source, that is glucose, about 70% of the body needs are met by the glucose. So glucose only supplies energy for 70% of the body activities. Then about 25% of energy is derived from fatty acids, that is fat. So then about 5% of energy for the body comes from the proteins or amino acids. Okay. So that is why I told you biomolecules. These three are important biomolecules. When I told you the introduction of the biochemistry, I have told biomolecules, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids and nucleic acids. This is what I told. And these three, carbohydrates, fat and proteins, are the main energy yielding substances. Major energy comes from the carbohydrate, glucose, that is about 70%, and next to glucose, fats means fatty acids supply the energy, that is about 25%, and proteins or amino acids, they contribute about 5% of energy to the body needs. Next to this, ketone bodies, they are also able to supply energy to the body, and but the energy supplied by these ketone bodies is negligible, and the energy that is supplied by ketone bodies matters during the starvation process. Normally ketone bodies contribution is very less, but during the starvation process, the ketone bodies, they supply energy. They supply lot of energy for survival of the organism. Now if you see during starvation, what will happen? We have excess reserve food in the form of fat, which is stored in the adipose tissue. Mainly adipose tissue is mainly rich in case of abdomen. Okay, so this adipose tissue is present below the skin, and in the adipose tissue fat is stored. This fat is the reserve food material. During starvation means if you don't take food for 2 days or more than 2 days, 3 days, you are not taking food for more than 2-3 days, that is called starvation. Sometimes our politicians, if you see, they go for hunger strike they do, means we want these demands for our local people. If you don't do this from the government, and a big politician will do the hunger strike means he will not eat food till the government comes and do that work. Okay, that is what hunger strike, that is called starvation. So in hunger strike, that person is not taking food for longer periods like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, or maybe more than that. So that is called starvation. If you don't eat food, your body needs energy. Then body, if you don't eat food, you don't get energy. So your body is starving, there is no energy. So in that condition is called starvation. So during starvation, what will happen? Even then, if you don't eat food, the person is able to see, the person is able to talk, but he will become dull. he will become dull because the energy production in the body is coming down. So person will become weak, he becomes dull. So that process is starvation because there is no diet intake and there is no energy production. So he becomes weak, he becomes dull. So that condition is called starvation. But still the person is able to see, able to talk for some time, for some days, right? So that is called starvation. So in starvation what happens? This adipose tissue undergoes lipolysis. The lipids present in the adipose tissue undergoes degradation, that is called lipolysis. That is called lipolysis. Degradation of fat is called lipolysis. This is activated by the hormone sensitive lipase enzyme. This is activated by a hormone sensitive lipase enzyme. This lipase comes and cleaves the lipids in the adipose tissue. This is called lipolysis. The lipolysis is also stimulated by the hormones epinephrine and glucagon. Epinephrine and glucagon. You know that in blood glucose homeostasis we have seen that these are all epinephrine, glucagon are acting antagonistic to the hormone insulin. Insulin is causing hypoglycemia, whereas glucagon and epinephrine are responsible for hyperglycemic effect. Means they increase the glucose concentration in the body. So these hormones also, if prolonged starvation is going, these hormones also, they activate this hormone sensitive lipase enzyme and starts this lipolysis process in the adipose tissue. As a result of lipolysis, what will happen? There is formation of free fatty acids into the circulation, and these free fatty acids are carried by the albumin in the blood, and it takes these fatty acids to the other cells. Most important organs like heart, means myocardium muscle, heart muscle is myocardium, and skeletal muscle, to the liver, or fatty acids are transported for their metabolism. So there these fatty acids undergo oxidation. This oxidation is called beta oxidation. So beta oxidation, it produces, releases a compound called acetyl-CoA. Okay. So this acetyl-CoA is produced from the beta oxidation of fatty acids. This is how the energy is derived from beta oxidation of fat during starvation. So person is able to survive for 2-3 more days. And if the prolonged starvation is going on and they starve for more days, then the person may lead to coma because of the deficiency of the glucose supply to the brain, and the person may die also. Okay. So that is what the starvation. So during starvation, mainly energy comes from the adipose tissue. This hormone sensitive lipase is activated by the hormone glucagon and epinephrine. So this lipase starts lipolysis of the lipids present in the adipose tissue, and this releases the free fatty acids which are carried out by the albumin, and this albumin transports these fatty acids to the myocardium of the heart, skeletal muscle and liver for its oxidation. So oxidation of these fatty acids by beta oxidation releases the acetyl-CoA and energy. That energy is utilized by the cells for the survival. So that is about the significance and metabolism, importance of the metabolism of beta oxidation of fatty acids in the starvation process. Now we will move on to the important metabolism, that is beta oxidation of fatty acids. So this we are going to study now in detail. If you see the beta oxidation of fatty acids is called beta oxidation of fatty acids. It is the oxidation of fatty acids. Beta oxidation means it is the oxidation of fatty acids at beta carbon. It is oxidation of fatty acids at beta carbon. If you see the significance of beta oxidation of fatty acids, the significance is energy production. Where this beta oxidation of fatty acids takes place, site of the beta oxidation, if you see, it is taking place in the mitochondria of the cells. And beta oxidation, if you see, this is very active in myocardium. Beta oxidation is very active in myocardium, skeletal muscle and liver. It is one of the important catabolic pathways. Catabolic pathway. Catabolic pathway means degradation pathway. Degradation pathway. Degradation pathway means there is a breakdown of the substance. Breakdown of the substance. So breakdown of the substance releases energy. So beta oxidation releases energy, and this is a catabolic process. So this is an oxidative pathway for the fats. Okay. So if you see the steps in beta oxidation, activation of fatty acids in cytosol is the first step, because for beta oxidation we need activation of the fatty acids first. So activation of fatty acids takes place in the cytosol. Then activated fatty acids are transported from the cytosol to the mitochondria. That is the second step. Activated fatty acids are transported from cytosol to mitochondria. That is second step. Third step is beta oxidation proper in mitochondria. Beta oxidation proper in mitochondria. So in the mitochondria, beta oxidation proper takes place. Proper means actual beta oxidation is taking place in mitochondria. That is the third step of beta oxidation. Now activation of fatty acids is the first step. This takes place in the cytoplasm. Now this is a fatty acid. You can see here the structure of fatty acid. There are many fatty acids. Earlier I have shown you the structure of palmitic acid, which is a 18 carbon hydrocarbon chain is there for this palmitic acid. Okay. Now this is the structure of fatty acid. If you see, it is like this. R is still more hydrocarbons will be present. Okay. Now the terminal carbon is COOH group, or it can be written as COO minus. So this is the fatty acid. Now this fatty acid activation has to be taken place for the beta oxidation. Now this activation of fatty acids takes place by the enzyme acyl-CoA synthetase. Means this acyl-CoA synthetase adds this coenzyme A to the fatty acid, so this becomes acyl-CoA. So acyl-CoA is called activated fatty acid. Acyl-CoA is called activated fatty acid. Now see here, the coenzyme A, CoASH, is added by the enzyme acyl-CoA synthetase to the fatty acid, so it becomes SCOA is added. Okay, this is the thiosulfur bond. This is the thiosulfur bond. Okay, so this coenzyme A is added to the fatty acid, so it becomes acyl-CoA. Acyl-CoA is called as the activated fatty acid. Okay, and this requires 1 ATP. It requires 1 ATP and gets converted to AMP, means pyrophosphate. Two phosphate molecules are utilized for the catalyzation of this reaction. Okay. Now this fatty acid, any fatty acid which has to undergo oxidation, beta oxidation, then it has to be activated. So activation means addition of coenzyme A to the fatty acid, becoming acyl-CoA is making the fatty acid active. Now once this activation is done, now the transportation. So transport of activated fatty acids from the cytoplasm into the mitochondria of the cell takes place by compound called carnitin. So carnitin, what it will do, it transports this activated fatty acids from the cytoplasm into the mitochondria, because this movement of these fatty acids cannot take place across the mitochondrial membrane. There is no permission for the entry of this activated fatty acids directly into the mitochondria. So the transportation of this activated fatty acid requires a protein, requires a carrier called carnitin. This carnitin, if you see, carnitin is chemically called beta hydroxy gamma trimethyl ammonium butyrate. Beta hydroxy gamma trimethyl ammonium butyrate is the compound chemical name, carnitin. In short, it is called as carnitin, but its chemical name, if you see, it is beta hydroxy gamma trimethyl beta hydroxy gamma trimethyl ammonium butyrate. Okay, now this carnitine helps this activated fatty acids to transport into the mitochondria. Okay, now carnitine is synthesized in liver and kidney. I'm sorry. Carnitine is synthesized in liver and kidney from amino acid lysine and methionine and stored in muscle. So carnitine is synthesized in liver and kidney from lysine and methionine and stored in muscle. Now if you see the transportation, how it takes place, it is explained in this diagram. See carefully. So this is a mitochondrial membrane this is, and above this is the cytoplasm, and inside this is mitochondrial matrix. Now activated fatty acid means acyl CoA should be transported into the mitochondria for beta oxidation proper. So this transportation takes place with the help of a carrier called carnitine. Okay, carnitine, what it will do, it reacts with the activated acyl CoA and form acyl carnitine, and this coenzyme A is released, and fatty acid is attached to the carnitine by the enzyme carnitine acyl transferase 1, CAT1, means carnitine acyl transferase 1. This carnitine acyl transferase 1 removes the coenzyme A from acyl CoA and takes the acyl CoA and forms acyl carnitine. Now this acyl carnitine, what will happen? This moves across the mitochondrial membrane. It moves across the mitochondrial membrane through a protein called translocase, through a carrier protein called translocase. So this translocase allows this carnitine to enter inside the mitochondria. Okay, as a result, acyl carnitine comes to translocase. This opens the gate for the movement of acyl carnitine and it comes inside. Now in the mitochondrial matrix, what happens? This acyl carnitine, by the enzyme carnitine acyl transferase 2, it releases the acyl CoA and carnitine is regenerated, and regenerated carnitine through this carrier protein translocase again comes out of the cell, out of the mitochondria, and comes into the cytoplasm. Again it takes another fatty acid and converted into acyl carnitine and comes into the mitochondria. So this is how carnitine transports these activated fatty acids into mitochondrial matrix. Now we have got the acyl CoA into the mitochondrial matrix. Now this acyl CoA undergoes beta oxidation proper for yielding energy. So now the beta for this acyl CoA has come into the mitochondrial matrix. Now the beta oxidation proper is the third step of beta oxidation of fatty acids. Third step of beta oxidation of fatty acids is beta oxidation proper. Now if you see the beta oxidation proper, again it is having four major steps. Okay, the first step is oxidation by FAD dependent enzyme. Second step is hydration. Third step is again oxidation by NAD. Now fourth step is thiolysis, means cleavage, thiolysis. Okay, now we will see all the steps one by one now. Now the first step is oxidation. Now we have fatty acid in the mitochondrial matrix. So this is acyl CoA, okay, fatty acyl CoA. Now let's say we are talking about the palmitic acid, which is having 16 carbons in its structure, this fatty acid, and this 16 carbon fatty acid is undergoing oxidation, beta oxidation in mitochondrial matrix. Let's say what will happen. See, first step is oxidation by the FAD dependent enzyme, that is acyl CoA dehydrogenase. Acyl CoA dehydrogenase enzyme catalyzes the oxidation of fatty acyl CoA and converts this into trans-enoyl CoA compound. FAD is converted to FADH2 and it releases energy through electron transport chain. 2 ATP is released from FADH2. Now this trans-enoyl-CoA undergoes hydration, means addition of water takes place for trans-enoyl-CoA, and it is converted to hydroxy-acyl-CoA. It is converted to hydroxy-acyl-CoA by the enzyme enoyl-CoA hydratase, by the enzyme enoyl-CoA hydratase, by the enzyme enoyl-CoA hydratase. So enoyl-CoA hydratase converts this trans-enoyl coenzyme A to hydroxy-acyl-CoA. Next step, this hydroxy-acyl-CoA undergoes oxidation, which is NAD dependent. Okay, this reaction is catalyzed by hydroxy-acyl-CoA dehydrogenase enzyme. Hydroxy-acyl-CoA dehydrogenase enzyme. So this is an NAD dependent reaction. NAD is converted to NADH2 and this yields 3 ATP in electron transport chain. Now this resulting compound by the action of the enzyme hydroxy-acyl-CoA dehydrogenase is keto-acyl-CoA. Keto-acyl-CoA. Now this keto-acyl-CoA undergoes cleavage by the enzyme thiolase. Okay, thiolase means addition of coenzyme A takes place, and then the what will happen, the cleavage will take place, means breaking will take place. Now initially we have started this beta oxidation proper with a fatty acid which is having 16 carbons. Now this thiolase removes 2 carbon compound from the beta keto-acyl-CoA, that is acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA contains 2 carbons. Acetyl-CoA contains 2 carbons in its structure, and this 2 carbon compound is removed from the 16 carbon compound which is converted to keto-acyl-CoA, and 2 carbons are removed in the form of acetyl-CoA. So now 14 carbons are present, that is acyl-CoA with 14 carbons. So now coenzyme A is added, that coenzyme A is added to this acyl and it becomes acyl-CoA. Then acetyl-CoA is removed by the cleavage of thiolase enzyme. Like this, now this 14 carbon compound fatty acid goes to the first step oxidation, which is FAD dependent, then followed by hydration, followed by again NAD dependent deoxidation, then followed by the cleavage. Now 14 carbon, from the 14 carbon in this step, again 2 more carbons are removed in the form of acetyl-CoA, then it becomes 12 carbon. Then it becomes 12 carbon fatty acid. Now this 12 carbon fatty acid again enters into the first step, that is oxidation, and again follows hydration, follows oxidation dependent on NAD, then cleavage, then this 12 carbon will become 10 carbon and 2 carbons are removed in the form of acetyl-CoA. Likewise, all 16 carbons fatty acid undergoes oxidation of beta oxidation proper with these 4 steps, like oxidation by FAD dependent enzyme and hydration, followed by the oxidation by NAD dependent enzyme, followed by the cleavage by the enzyme thiolase. Likewise, this all 16 carbons are cleaved consequently in the form of removal of acetyl-CoA, which is a 2 carbon compound, and releases energy continuously during these oxidation steps in beta oxidation proper. So likewise, if you see palmitoyl-CoA, earlier I have told as 18 carbon, I am sorry, palmitoyl-CoA, palmitic acid consists of 16 carbons only. So this to palmitic acid to undergo beta oxidation, 7 cycles of beta oxidation with successive removal of 2 carbon units is required. Okay, after 7th step, what will happen? There is 4 carbon compound. This 4 carbon compound is giving 2 acetyl-CoA molecules. Okay, so as a result, 7 cycles are required to undergo oxidation of this 16 carbon palmitic acid. 7 cycles are required. As a result, 7 FADH2, 7 NADH2 are produced. FADH2 produces 2 ATP and NADH produces 3 ATP. Means 7 into 3 ATP for NADH, it is 21 ATP, and 7 into FADH2 2 ATP, 14 ATP. 21 plus 14 ATP, if you see, 35 ATP are produced from the oxidation of 16 carbon palmitic acid. 16 carbon palmitic acid. Now this acetyl-CoA further enters into this DCA cycle and yields energy. Further energy can be obtained. Okay. So if you see the energetics of beta oxidation, 7 cycles are required for palmitic acid to complete the oxidation of this fatty acid. So 7 FADH2, 7 NADH2 are produced. 7 FADH2 yields 2 ATP. So 7 into 2, 14 ATP. 7 NADH, each NADH yields 3 ATP. And 7 NADH are produced in 7 cycles of beta oxidation of palmitic acid. So 7 into 3, 21 ATP. Now 8 acetyl CoA which enter into citric acid cycle can yield 12 ATP. So 35 ATP plus 96 ATP, total 131 ATP are produced from the oxidation of palmitic acid, 16 carbon palmitic acid. So and for the activation of fatty acid in the first step of beta oxidation, that is activation of fatty acid, we have used 1 ATP which is converted to AMP. So it is equal to 2 ATP usage. So minus 2 if you put, total 129 ATP, total 129 ATP. So 129 ATP are produced from the oxidation of 16 carbon palmitic acid. Okay, so oxidation of 1 palmitic acid fatty acid in beta oxidation yields 129 ATP. Total 129 ATP are produced, excluding the ATP that is consumed in the first step, it is 129. So total net ATP is 129 ATP are produced from one fatty acid oxidation. See, that is why lipids are high energy yielding substances, which helps in starvation, So if you see the beta oxidation, this is oxidation for even chain fatty acids. We have seen even chain means 2, 4, 6, 5, 8, 10 and so on, like this. So even numbers. So fatty acids which contain even number of carbon atoms, that we have seen. But this odd chain fatty acids, what will happen? Oxidation of odd chain fatty acids, acetyl CoA and propionyl CoA is formed. For propionyl CoA is produced at the end of the odd chain fatty acid oxidation. After removal, first it is like beta oxidation only, but at the end for odd chain fatty acid, acetyl CoA plus propionyl CoA is produced. This propionyl CoA enters into the citric acid cycle or TCA cycle through the conversion into succinyl CoA. Propionyl CoA is converted to succinyl CoA via malonyl CoA. Okay, so this succinyl CoA enters into citric acid cycle and can yield energy. Okay, now there is apart from the beta oxidation, there is alpha oxidation and omega oxidation is also there, and peroxisomal oxidation. If you see, very long chain fatty acids are oxidized by peroxisomal oxidation, and oxidation of odd chain fatty acids, at the end it results acetyl CoA plus propionyl CoA. Last step only you will get this propionyl CoA in odd chain oxidation of odd chain fatty acid oxidation. Then oxidation of unsaturated fatty acids. This is about saturated fatty acids. Saturated fatty acids means all these fatty acids, they consist of single bonds in their structure, and unsaturated fatty acids, they contain double bonds in their structure. So oxidation of odd chain fatty acids, as I told, at the end you will get propionyl CoA. This propionyl CoA undergoes carboxylation and converted into D-methyl malonyl CoA, and methyl malonyl CoA is isomerized to L-methyl malonyl CoA. This L-methyl malonyl CoA is converted to succinyl CoA, and succinyl CoA, as I told, it enters into the citric acid cycle. Then oxidation of unsaturated fatty acids, if you see, it occurs by some modification in the beta oxidation of fatty acids only. An additional enzyme, that is isomerase, will be involved to move the double bonds into proper positions is required for the oxidation of unsaturated fatty acid. PUFA means polyunsaturated fatty acids. MUFA means monounsaturated fatty acid. For example, you take oleic acid is a fatty acid which is example for monounsaturated fatty acid. Monounsaturated fatty acid means it contains only one double bond in its structure. Polyunsaturated fatty acids means they contain many double bonds in their structure. So example for polyunsaturated fatty acid, we have linoleic acid and linolenic acid. Linoleic acid and linolenic acid are example for polyunsaturated fatty acid, and oleic acid is example for monounsaturated fatty acid. Now this, if you see the polyunsaturated fatty acid or monounsaturated fatty acid oxidation, there is a double bond is there. So movement of this double bond to proper positions for the oxidation is carried out by the enzyme enoyl CoA isomerase and enoyl CoA hydratase. They move this double bond from one position to another position.